Your work always tells a story. Let's have a close look.
Hello and welcome to Close Look. I am Daniel Westbay, joined by a man that can speak like no other. I'm going to let him introduce himself. He's a life coach. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Daniel. Hello, everyone. My name is Shenan Charania, and like Daniel said, I work as a life coach, transformative coach, a business coach, however you want to put it.
So, Shenan, it's been an interesting time in our lives. Uh, have you seen a change in your clients? Have you seen an influx in having more clients or not?
Yes and no. So in the context of having seen change in my current clients, a lot of them, no. They have a direction, they have a vision, they're moving through it. They have fluctuations in their emotions and thoughts every day, but who doesn't, right? So that's the change. They're kind of maybe a little bit more caught up than usual, but it's nothing to solve. It's just something to experience and be aware of. In terms of am I seeing more clients? Well, I've opened up my calendar to do a lot of free coaching because there's a lot of obviously people out there that are facing uncertainty, anxiety, stress. So I'm doing a lot of that as well. And I'm having fun with it because it's nice to sit with somebody and explore a direction together and not look into solving things, but just kind of, like I said earlier, diving into the experience and being part of that experience and learning something from it,
So actually, that's a good idea, like direction. A lot of entrepreneurs like myself have been affected because a lot of jobs that we do have revolve around interacting with others. I've recently had like 3 gigs that fell out as soon as this news hit. Have you seen people coming to like you were talking about direction, trying to shift or pivot what it is that they can do and take it online, or do you see that people are kind of still lost, or I don't know. I'm just curious as your take on this whole thing. That's why.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. Well, so first of all, I had to pivot as well because a lot of my time and attention was going towards, as you know, speaking in schools, working with teachers, working with nonprofits, working with mental health professionals, police officers, so on. So a lot of those events were, of course, outside, in locations, and all of that overnight just closed. Right. So I had all this time, attention, energy, and basically that direction was dissolved. So I decided to put it towards supporting others. Obviously, that's part of my profession. And so I started the group community that you're part of as well, which just brings people together and focusing on connection and all that. So that's how I've pivoted. Others that I've spoken to, what I've seen the most, and by the way, there's a lot of real cases. Like one of my close friends has lost her job and the company shut down, and she's got a mortgage and a car payment and insurance payments and a single parent. So that's all of a sudden, a lot on her plate. And on top of that, the government's like, you got to stay home alone with your thoughts. So she's like, oh my God.
It's terrible.
So,
it adds anxiety and depression.
Right. Exactly. That's the thing. So I've seen people that are facing real challenges, but what's been really interesting is to see how there is a real challenge, and then there's what we think about it. And those two are completely separate, because the more we think about it, the more we start to perpetuate it, the more we build illusory boxes around it. And when we have those and we don't see that, we're unconscious of it, then we're approaching every problem or solution or opportunity with all these contaminated filters, and we miss it. We don't make the right decisions. We make panic, hasty decisions. So the work really is to help people get grounded. If you can get grounded, you're going to face whatever you're facing with a lot more clarity.
Do you think that this kind of puts things into perspective a little bit for people? Like, we put so much emphasis on our status to where we work, right? Has this changed that? Because you just mentioned that you had friend that lost everything shut down basically, right? This unless you're a huge corporation like Walmart or Target or something like that where you're gonna be fine. Other corporations or companies that don't have those big budget money, right? Do you find that it will change everybody's perspective as to how we move forward or how they move forward into another job? Is it more future proof? Are we going to start thinking about those kind of things? I don't know. I'm just curious to hear what you say.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know if it's too early to project that far or to speculate in that direction, at least with an educated guess. But I do know that, globally, I think it's quite evident that people have started to slow down, and a lot of people have realized what's really important to them, which they weren't looking at before. So spending time with family, caring for themselves in different directions that they might have ignored before, emotional care, spiritual care, um, trying to tap into their creativity and their wisdom and their insights more, which they have never really looked at because they were part of just a routine system.
Mhm.
So, people are forced to look at these things, and it's a good thing because lots of things are coming out from inside of them
Yep.
that they didn't even know they had, lots of good qualities. On the other end of it, there's also people that have ignored a lot of their stuff and said, "Oh, I'll get this done later. I'm part of this system and routine, and I'm busy." Now they're faced with, they've got to get it done now. Whatever it is that they're avoiding or ignoring in their life, they're faced with it. So again, it's a really good thing. Maybe a little bit more on the uncomfortable side, but definitely a good thing to look at it and unfold those inquiries that are sitting dormant.
It's have you seen an influx of happier people or about the same? I'm just curious because we talk about being able to reflect on what's important to you, and this may make certain people happier. So I'm curious to see if you got a more of happiness coming to you, or
Um, I don't know if I would call it happy, but definitely on the way to happiness. Definitely, I think people are looking at more of themselves, which in turn brings this wholesome view instead of the fragmented view that they might be used to. And if I was to, give it a description, I think I'm seeing more curious people than ever.
that's a good word. Yes, curious. Yes. So man, I'm just because this has like I was worried at first when this happened to me again. Like I said, I lost some gigs, and it makes it hard to interview people like we're doing today, right? It makes it hard to meet people to do an interview, and you usually have that human connection. But for some reason, this has always been my world, talking to you virtually, to meet people online and stuff like that. Do you? I know this is kind of maybe outside of your realm, but I'm just curious as a life coach point of view, as taking as somebody who is maybe worried because when we think about it, if more places accepted uh, electronics or anatomic like robots into their workforce, does this present a problem? Has anybody come to you like saying, "Oh, my company is like I'm worried that now that we're seeing this, more robotics will come in." And I'm just curious. These are just things that I would think about anyways. Are you
Mm.
replaceable? Is the idea of it in your mind now that you're replaceable with a robot, right?
Well, in my experience, I haven't got into conversations like that
Okay.
at all, actually. However, since you do bring it up, I think it's not obviously out of the box that everyone's mind is somewhat directed into what's going to happen in the future if something like this continues or gets worse or even happens again. Um, so it's on people's minds, but I think again it can be viewed as a good thing if people have not thought of that before. Maybe they don't have a plan B, they don't have a backup plan. Maybe they've been too comfortable in their systems and not gone after their dreams, and this would be a good time to look into that direction. So the question of is that going to happen? It possibly could. I can't say it wouldn't. It's nice to consider that it could, so we can have some ground beneath our feet.
Mm-hmm.
you know.
It's and maybe you can agree. I really think that a time like this, and you have expressed it, it gives you time to explore other avenues that maybe someone didn't think to explore, right? Everybody
Mhm.
is creative. Everybody is a creative person, and sometimes they just don't know how to outlet, and sometimes you get stuck in this routine life, right? And so have you seen, like you said, you did see people come in kind of frazzled as to what it is they're going to do next.
Yeah.
How do you go about, like, what's your mantra? What's your preparation when someone comes in and does something like that? Because you got
That
to
is,
adapt too, right? So
yeah. So do you mean like when they're frantic? What do I do?
yeah, let's start there. When they're frantic, like they'll listen to you, but they're just so stuck in their head that because this routine that you set, like everybody gets into, has been demolished. So
Mhm.
how do you kind of reframe it for them that everything will be all right?
Yeah. So my work is quite different than what I see out there. At least,
Mhm.
it's really my work is never about getting them to feel it's okay or have them reframe it, because how I see reframing or how I see positive thinking or optimistic way of being, if you're feeling negative, if you're feeling down, if you're believing that state, it's like you being tired and drinking more coffee. Like
Mhm.
it's artificial energy you're going to get, you know? And then after that, you're taking a Red Bull. And after that, you're taking another energy drink. So that's positive thinking to me. So what I do is I help them. First of all, I sit with them. And if anything I want to help them with, I want to help them to see how their experience emotionally, mentally is fluctuating. If I can help them see that it's fluctuating, then they themselves can see that it's okay to sit with whatever position they're in.
Mhm.
Because no matter the situation, people who are anxious, stressed, uncertain, frustrated, um, their levels fluctuate through the day. It's
Mhm.
never a 10 out of 10 all day. So just to help them create that gap between there is your thinking and what you're feeling about life, and then there's life, and they're two separate things,
I like
right?
that you do really make it clear that it's everything is separate if you really take the time to break it down and think about it. I really do, and that's one of the cool things about you, Shenan. I don't meet people that can differentiate those two things. Um, that's not a question, that's a statement. Um, so what are you doing then? Like what are you doing to, and for lack of better words, what are you doing to stay sane? Have you got? I see that you've grown the
Yeah.
pandemic beard. So
Yes.
what are you
I'm
doing to stay?
experimenting up here. Yeah. This is where my creativity comes out. um, I I'm slowed down too, you know. I've been doing a lot more reading. I've been going for runs and walks. I have time to do certain things like that, like going for long walks and maybe reading for 2 hours at a time where I wouldn't before. It would be half an hour at the most in the mornings if I'm up early. Uh, so I enjoy doing that. You know, I'm listening to music. I'm listening to myself more. I am lately in the past week or so. I'm really looking in the direction of being more with silence. And what I mean by that is not just silence with thoughts and emotions, but beyond the thoughts and emotions, and watching myself observe, you know, what is it that I'm experiencing. And I could be in stress. If I think about the future, I'll be in stress. And if I think about the past, I'll be in some sort of, you know, projection of the past. So I kind of want to just watch and observe and be curious about it without identifying with it. And this kind of time has allowed me to do that a little more.
It's the perfect time. I've also been
Yeah.
doing a lot. You could tell a lot by a person by what it is that they do with their time. I think that right now a lot of people are stuck in their heads, and you just mentioned that it's a good time to reflect, right? And it's good, and it's a good thing. I agree with you 100%, but some people aren't used to that.
Yeah.
So what type of practices would you give someone to to attempt to start this process and not be scared about it going down maybe a certain type of path, like whether it be confronting a decision that they made in the last week or something like that, or that they didn't like, but they pushed it to the back of their mind and just proceeded, but now they have this time to think about it. How would you get someone to be comfortable with looking inwards?
So that's a good question. There's some very basic things that I think everybody can do. Number one, limit your news intake. That's a number one
Definitely.
thing.
I agree with
Right?
that
Because
100%.
news is all about that and that only right now.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't help. Looking at the numbers every hour is not going to get you anywhere. It's not helpful in any sense. So that's number one. The second thing is physical activity. I found that getting into that helps. Obviously, it gets your heart rate going. You know, it gets your blood pumping. It gets you sweating, and it gets your mind off of things. You get more in contact with your body. So that's another basic thing. Another one is teasing out your creativity, however that is. That's about getting a coloring book or painting, or one of the things I actually forgot to mention to you that I'm up to right now is experimenting with new recipes. So I'm cooking a lot more in different. I am now, yeah. I'm not gonna say it's good, but it's an experimentation mode right now.
Okay.
You know, so that's where my creativity is coming out. Put on some music, and the weather's been amazing, so trying out in that sense. So getting some kind of creative activity going, no matter how little it is, shifts our attention. And so that creates a baseline, right, for a daily routine to get one of those things going, a different one every day that points to either creativity, physical activity, and also something that, you know, teases out sort of your insightful self, you know, not your repetitive patterned behavior thinking, but there's this insightful part of us that everyone has, that when we get a little bit more quiet and reflective, it seems to surface up. So what is it that teases that out? And then to answer your question about how does somebody go into their inner world more, there's many ways. There's questions. I find the work of Byron Katie very powerful, and it's a great start for anybody that's looking to go inwards. She's got something called The Work. It's literally called The Work. And she's a spiritual teacher, and it's a very simple worksheet. It's 4 questions that you ask yourself about whatever it is that you're facing, and it points you back into yourself. It's an inquiring method. So I would really encourage people that are just beginning to dive into that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. It's certainly an books. That's not a book. That's a person, right? Sorry.
Byron Katie is a person.
Very often, as you can see.
Yeah, no, that's okay. She's got a great book, actually. It's called Loving What Is. That's one of my favorite books.
Okay. So there is a book. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did talk about exercising, and I think that there's a misconception to this, because I don't know about you, but I've encountered a number of people that have said, "Oh, I'm gaining weight. I can't do what I usually do," and it's funny because again, creativity and thinking out the box. They've been so used to they need a gym to work out, right? And that's not the case at all. You can stay physically active even from your own home, right? And I feel like you're right. The media, social media, has it's a whirlwind of information. Can we go outside? Can we do this outside? How far are we supposed to stay from somebody? Like, there's so much misinformation that it's insane. But if you have a backyard or something like that, I try to tell them you can still work out in the backyard, or whatever. You can go outside. It's okay. So how often, I'm trying to, in my head, I'm trying to think about these questions, and I'm trying to word them. How would you go about, what are some of the exercises you would give somebody to keep their mind busy if needed to get through, because this pandemic has been going on for almost a month now, right? When you first started, how were people when they started to versus now?
Yeah, so I've found that people are in my world, the people that I've spoken with, they're plateauing in some sense. You know, there was a spike of, oh my God, what's going to happen? All this uncertainty and a collective kind of storm towards that. And people are plateauing on some level now. They're starting to figure out what's creative and fun for them, what's lighthearted. They're finding a new rhythm, basically, right? And to answer your question of what physical activity they can do, like I found some really cool Instagram accounts that I used to follow that have changed up their game. You know, they are physical activity workout accounts anyways. So they're coming up with some really cool exercises. You don't have to come up with them. You can just follow them. YouTube has millions of videos.
Plenty of people I know, they've gone on Zoom or Skype and just done mass classes and walks and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. That's another one. I have a friend that gets on a yoga class on Zoom every day. She's loving it. There's tons and tons of ways to do it. There's another guy that posted this morning I seen. He took old bed sheets and turned them into put them around the door and close the door and turn into a back exercise. And I thought it was super creative to do that, you know?
Did you do it?
I haven't yet. I just seen it this morning. I might try it. But you know, there's no shortage of it is basically what I'm getting to, is that you can find so many different ways of being creative, provided that you slow your mind down first. Because that's where the creativity comes from, right?
And be open to it, right?
Yeah.
Have you had any clients who are like against trying to be open? Do you have any like any person that comes in and you give them these ideas and they're like, oh, I just can't, it should be this way, I need to go to work, I need to have purpose? Like, do you get things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone has their degrees and they all vary in intensity. But I have never experienced anyone that's not open. I wouldn't say that they're not open. I just think they're open at a different degree. And it's the coach's job to meet them where they are and play with that instead of trying to get them on to see what I think is right for them. You know? So I go to their level and sit with them there.
Okay. I got one more question and then we'll plug you, Shenan. And I don't mean this by any means or disrespect, but I'm just curious because for somebody out there who doesn't know how to separate these categories, what kind of sets you apart from like being considered a psychologist or a counselor, and you're a life coach? So what sets you guys apart? I mean, I know there's a place for all of them, but I mean, what would set you apart, you would say?
That's a great question. I think there's one specific thing that's major. There's many minor things. One major thing is psychologists, counselors, therapists, and so on. They want to take a look at your past to help you make sense of it. Coaches, we want to take a look at your future and help you build the direction consciously to design your future.
That's it. Okay. There we go. Yeah. That was easy. Wow, I was expecting a way longer answer to that.
No, it's a pretty clear distinction. You know, coaches help you consciously create a future, and psychologists helps you make sense of the past.
That's amazing. Shenan, it's always been a pleasure talking to you because you're a crazy, awesome human being.
So are you, Daniel.
Is there anywhere, where can they find you? This is your plug. This is your area. So where can they find you? Put anything up there.
Sure, it's very simple. On Facebook, Shenan Charania, all one word. On Instagram, the same. On LinkedIn, the same. On YouTube, the same.
Wow. You know, I like it when somebody says that because it just makes it easier for the editing process.
Yeah,
just slap it all on there. Well, Shenan, I really appreciate your time. I know we're going to see more of each other. Usually you're on my podcast, but because of everything, it's all over the place right now.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time. For everybody out there, this has been Shenan. He's going to be on our show, Multicultural Channel. Every Sunday we have our podcast at 7 p.m. on our CloseLook Facebook channel. If you have a cool interview or somebody cool to talk to, whether it be via Skype, Zoom, or kind of in person, but practicing social distancing, we can make that happen. Go to www.closelook.ca. And I look forward to talking to each and every one of you. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys in the next show.